Hello. I will now talk about a few attributes of God's wrath. This is a huge topic, so it will only be of introductory nature. And I will read some Bible verses and try to expound on that. So I will begin in Genesis chapter 7, verse 17 to 24. Now the flood was on the earth 40 days. The waters increased and lifted up the ark, and it rose high above the earth. The waters prevailed and greatly increased on the earth, and the ark moved about on the surface of the waters. And the waters prevailed exceedingly on the earth, and all the high hills under the whole heaven were covered. And the waters prevailed 15 cubits upwards, and the mountains were covered, and all flesh died that moved on the earth, birds, cattle, and beasts, and every creeping thing that creeps on earth, and every man, all in whose nostrils was the breath and spirit of life, all that was on the dry land died. So he destroyed all living things which were on the face of the ground, both man and cattle, creeping thing and bird of the air. They were destroyed from the earth. Only Noah and those who were with him in the ark remained alive. And the waters prevailed on the earth 150 days. Then I will continue, which was after the flood. And this will be a short verse. I will just read Genesis chapter 9, verse 1. So God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. So this is basically a commandment. Okay? Then I will go further to Genesis and I'll read chapter 11, verse 1 and up to 9, verse 9. Now the whole earth had one language and one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the lands of Shinar, and they dwelt there. Then they said to one another, Come, let us make bricks, and bake them thoroughly. They had brick for a stone, and they had asphalt for mortar. And they said, Come, let us build ourselves a city, and a tower whose top is in the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth. But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of man had built. And the Lord said, Indeed, the people are one, and they all have one language. And this is what they begin to do. Now nothing that they propose to do will be withheld from them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of all the earth, and they ceased building the city. Therefore its name is called Babel, because the Lord confused the language of all earth, and from there the Lord scattered them abroad from the face of all the earth. So this tells two different stories, you could say, with judgments and attributes of the wrath of our Lord. The first one was on Noah's day, and we know that the reason to why they were destroyed was because violence filled the earth and they were ungodly. And the result and the wrath of God here was a total utter destruction of everything. And that could have ended humanity, but it didn't. He had a small remnant, uh, which was Noah and his family. So through Noah, he saved humankind. So this is a different, I would say usually what you hear when you hear the story of Noah is that you hear this cute little boat with some animal heads sticking out of the windows. And they really don't tell the entire story. The entire story is pretty scary, I would say. Because when the people who lived on the earth got judged here, the only one who was saved was Noah and his family. And you could imagine that when the people and animals were gasping for the last breath, God was not there to help them. So he let them die. And that, I think, is a very important attribute to understand, that once it's over, okay? It's if he decides to destroy people, they will be destroyed. So then I would like to add here a second call it judgment. It is judgment, but here we got a commandment that they should be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. And what happened? Well, they decided to do the opposite here. They decided to gather at one place, build a city, build a name for themselves. And then they also decided to build a tower whose top is in the heavens. And I personally believe that they were not, actually believing that they would build a house that would reach the heavens, the actual heavens, not the air, but the heavens. It was more like just, we want our own heaven, and this tower will represent that construction. And they do not want to spread out on the face of the whole earth, which goes directly in contrast to his commandment. And then we can see here from the judgment that here we have a lesser form of judgment. God had promised Noah and his descendants not to destroy mankind the same way again. That is through waters. So instead, he decides to confuse the language. And from this story, we can tell that everyone talked the same language. But then, from this point on, he decided to spread them out or simply confuse their language so they don't understand each other. And that was actually a judgment. And what we can see here is that the actual, let's call it, they didn't obey his commandment here. Okay, so it was not as serious as in Noah. In Noah, they were simply utterly evil and wicked, and here it was mostly that they thought for themselves that I just want to stay here, and we don't want to spread out. It's better to stay together here and build our own things, build our own heaven, build our own city, do as we want on our own. And that is a lesser form of disobedience. So therefore, I believe they got a less formal judgment here. I will, after this, also talk further about the attributes of God's wrath when it comes in relation to believers. This is a generic attributes that applies to all men. And there is also written a lot about judgment aspects for which only applies to believers first. But yeah, it will always go to all men eventually. Yeah, so thank you for listening.